In a small, modest house, a single mother named Paloma had carefully built a life of stability and love for her young son, Cristino. Despite enduring past hardships, including an abusive ex-husband and the struggles of single parenthood, Paloma's days were filled with the warmth of her son and the quiet satisfaction of her work and crochet hobby. However, her world took an unexpected turn one quiet evening when she encountered Elian, a young man with his baby brother, Hugo. Elian's desperate situation mirrored Paloma's past, as he fled from a dangerous home environment to protect his sibling. Moved by his plight, Paloma offered help, creating a bond of mutual understanding and support. Elian, in turn, began to contribute to Paloma's household, assisting with the chores and caring for Cristino. Despite the challenges of blending their lives and the occasional friction, their shared experiences of hardship forged a powerful friendship. The story unfolds with moments of joy and struggle, highlighting the resilience and compassion that connect them. From Elian's heartfelt tears to Cristino's innocent gesture of comfort, their journey is a testament to the strength found in unexpected alliances and the healing power of kindness. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. A single mother embraced the challenge of caring for a young widower and his infant child. On an ordinary morning in Paloma's modest home, as the first light of dawn began to seep through the window, she witnessed a sight that left her astonished. Inside the simplicity of her small kitchen, where she was preparing breakfast with tender care, the sun's gentle rays illuminated her efforts. Her son, Cristino, just 6 years old, was seated at the table, his eyes sparkling with excitement as he played with miniature cars, eagerly awaiting his morning treat. "Mom, can I have some chocolate in my milk today?" he asked, his voice brimming with hope and anticipation. "Of course, sweetheart," Paloma replied with a warm, affectionate smile, her heart swelling with love as she added a touch of chocolate to his glass. It was a small gesture, but it filled the moment with a comforting sweetness. After they finished their breakfast, Paloma busied herself with tidying up their humble abode. The afternoon hours found her with a crochet hook in hand, while Cristino diligently worked on his homework, his concentration a testament to his youthful curiosity. As night fell and Cristino drifted into a peaceful slumber, Paloma found herself reflecting on the day's events. Despite the endless challenges and unspoken struggles, she felt a profound sense of gratitude for the chance to work at the local store and to unwind with her crochet projects in the quiet of the evening. Each day was a balancing act between providing for her son and managing their small household, but it was a labor of love that kept them secure and together. "We are together, and that's what truly matters," she mused, gazing lovingly at the small room where Cristino slept soundly. Weekends were her time to focus on her home, her son, and her crochet sales, while weekdays were a whirlwind of activity from dawn until dusk. Cristino spent his days at school, his mind a sponge soaking up the world with the wide-eyed wonder characteristic of his age. Paloma's job as a saleswoman was far from easy. The days were long, and dealing with impatient customers could be draining. Yet, each genuine smile and every appreciative nod from her clients fueled her spirit, making her feel that her efforts were making a meaningful impact. Her life was a tapestry woven from the threads of motherhood, work, and her cherished crochet moments. Despite the daily struggles and the shadows of uncertainty, an indomitable force within her heart, driven by her boundless love for Cristino and a glimmer of hope for brighter days, kept her moving forward. Her journey to this point of stability had been marked by profound difficulties. The deepest wound came from Mauricio, her ex-husband. Mauricio had initially captivated Paloma with his charm and attentiveness, promising a future filled with love and security. However, once they were married, his true nature emerged. He revealed himself to be a man of harsh words, laziness, and at times, violence. The gradual shift from a loving partner to a tormentor left Paloma with deep emotional scars, each one a reminder of her broken dreams. She recalled the nights of paralyzing fear, lying in bed, feeling utterly isolated and haunted by the bleak future. "This is not the life I envisioned," she would think to herself, "and it's not the life I want for my son." Her pregnancy, which had once been a source of joy, now added to her insecurities, intensifying her fear of what Mauricio might do. This fear became the driving force behind a decision that would forever alter her life. Her escape was meticulously planned, yet it was executed with a heavy heart. She knew that leaving would mean closing a painful chapter and stepping into a future filled with uncertainty. One particularly tense evening, as Mauricio went out with friends and promised a late return, Paloma saw her opportunity. With tears streaming down her face but a fierce determination in her heart, she packed a few essentials: clothes, vital documents, and the scant savings she had managed to set aside. She cast one last, sorrowful glance at the house she could no longer call home, took a deep, steadying breath, and ventured into the night. The darkness provided cover for her escape, and with each step, she carried not just her belongings, but the hope of a safer, brighter future for her son. The road stretched out before Paloma, a desolate and daunting expanse that seemed to swallow every trace of light and hope. Each rustle in the darkness and every fleeting shadow made her heart pound with almost unbearable intensity. But the image of her son, safe, happy, and tucked away from the horrors of their past, served as a beacon, propelling her forward with renewed strength. The path ahead was uncertain. She had no definitive destination, only a fierce resolve to distance herself from the man who had promised her love but delivered nothing but anguish and heartbreak. As the days turned into weeks, Paloma grappled with an array of formidable challenges. Finding a secure place to call home was no easy feat, and securing employment to support both herself and her son proved to be an uphill battle. The gnawing fear that Mauricio might discover their whereabouts loomed over her like a dark cloud. Yet, with each obstacle she overcame, Paloma felt an inner fortitude growing stronger. Looking at Cristino, now 6 years old, she saw undeniable proof that her agonizing decision had, despite its difficulty, been the right one. Their escape had heralded the dawn of a new chapter, one built on the bedrock of love, resilience, and an unwavering determination to forge ahead without glancing back. However, their newfound stability was about to be disrupted. One evening, Paloma's home was alive with the sounds of joy and the chaotic energy of toys scattered across the living room. Cristino, with boundless enthusiasm, raced around the room, inventing grand tales for his plastic superheroes. "Mom, I'm starving. This epic battle has drained all my energy," he announced, breaking the spell of his imaginary combat. Paloma smiled warmly, momentarily diverting her focus from the dishes she was washing in the kitchen to tend to her son's needs. "I'm going to whip up something delicious for you right away. You can leave it to me," she replied. However, her attention was drawn to the mounting pile of garbage in the kitchen, a stark reminder of the household chores awaiting her. "Cristino, play just a little longer. Mom will be back soon to make your food," she said as she grabbed the garbage bag and stepped outside. The coolness of the night wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, a welcome reprieve from the stifling heat of the kitchen. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, her gaze fell upon an unexpected sight. A young man standing on the other side, cradling a baby in his arms. He appeared disoriented, his eyes darting about with a mix of confusion and despair. Paloma had never seen him before. He was a stranger to the neighborhood. The sight of the tiny baby nestled against him tugged at her heartstrings. Driven by an overwhelming sense of compassion, she approached him hesitantly but with a heartfelt urgency. "Hello there," she called out softly, her voice a balm of comfort amidst the encroaching darkness. "Is everything all right?" The young man looked at her with a start, as if awakening from a solitary daze. His eyes, filled with exhaustion and concern, met hers. "Well, not exactly," he replied, his voice weary and laden with worry. "I'm lost, and my little brother is hungry." Paloma's gaze softened as she looked at the baby, who, despite the dire situation, slept soundly. "Come with me," she offered gently, her tone reassuring. "I can help you. Let's take care of this little one first, and then you can tell me what happened." She guided him back toward her home, her heart swelling with the impulse to offer solace and aid to those in need. Despite her trials, Paloma exuded a serene confidence that was like a soothing balm amid chaos. Inside her modest home, she meticulously prepared a bottle for the tiny baby, a nourishing snack for the young man, and a meal for her son, Cristino. As Elian ate, Paloma sat beside him at the table, fostering an atmosphere of calm and security that contrasted sharply with the turmoil they had all experienced. Curious about her unexpected guests, Paloma gently initiated a conversation to learn more about them. "What are your names?" she inquired, her voice soft yet encouraging, as she sought to understand the young man she had brought into her home. "My name is Elian," he replied, glancing affectionately at his sleeping brother curled up in a corner of the couch. "This is my little brother, Hugo." Paloma nodded, her expression warm and open. "We're in a safe space now. Can you tell me what happened? It seems like you've been through a lot." Her question, though simple, carried the weight of genuine concern and empathy, a reflection of the burden Elian had been carrying. Elian sighed deeply, a sound heavy with sorrow and exhaustion far beyond his years. "My mother remarried a few years ago," he began, his voice tinged with a bitter undertone. "At first, he seemed like a good man, but I always had this nagging feeling that something wasn't right, and sadly, I was proven correct." His gaze fell to the plate before him, as if the act of recounting the painful memories was nearly too much to bear. After the marriage, his true nature emerged. He became violent, constantly shouting and threatening both my mother and me. Elian's voice trembled slightly, but he pressed on, driven by a desperate need to share his story. "When my mother became pregnant with Hugo, I hoped things might improve, but they only worsened. He resented the idea of another child, and once Hugo was born, the situation became unbearable. I knew I had to act. I couldn't let Hugo grow up in that toxic environment," Elian said, his eyes burning with a fierce resolve to protect his brother. "One night, during one of their violent fights, I seized the chance to escape with Hugo." Paloma listened with a heavy heart, her own experiences echoing in Elian's words. The courage and fear of fleeing to protect someone you love were feelings she knew all too well. "You did the right thing, Elian," Paloma assured him, her voice steady and filled with heartfelt empathy. "Hugo is incredibly fortunate to have a brother like you. I've been through similar struggles, and I understand how hard it is." Elian met her gaze, finding not just understanding but also a quiet promise of support in her eyes. "I just want him to have a better chance at life than I ever had," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "He will have it," Paloma affirmed, her conviction lending strength to her words. "I will help you in any way I can. I don't have much, but I have enough to make a difference." In that moment, an invisible yet profound bond formed between them, united by shared experiences and a mutual determination to create a brighter future for their children. Elian, still processing Paloma's generous offer, expressed his deep gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, sincerity evident in his eyes. "You're doing more for us than anyone has in a long time." This moment of shared vulnerability marked the beginning of a budding friendship. Their open conversations not only drew them closer, but also provided Elian with a glimmer of hope, which he had sorely lacked in his struggle. "I'm determined to find a job to build a life for us here," Elian said, reflecting on the next steps now that they had found a haven. Understanding the opportunity and his limitations, he cautiously proposed, "Could you help me with cleaning and look after Cristino while I'm at work? I may not be able to offer much, but I could assist you with something until you find a better job." Paloma considered the offer and agreed, seeing it as a chance to support Elian while also easing her workload. "I accept. It would be an honor to help, and it's a way to express my gratitude for everything you're doing for us," Elian responded, his voice brimming with earnestness. Thus, with a newfound arrangement, Cristino began attending school only in the mornings, allowing Paloma to save on monthly expenses while allowing Elian to work and contribute around the house. This mutual support forged a path forward, marked by kindness, understanding, and the shared goal of providing a better future for their children. Elian's presence introduced a new rhythm to the household, weaving him into the fabric of their daily lives. His role was multifaceted, He took on the mantle of housekeeper, cook, and caretaker for both Cristino and Hugo. Each day, Elian embraced his responsibilities with a blend of dedication and resilience. Washing clothes, sweeping floors, and ensuring the dishes were always clean became as integral to his routine as caring for the children. Despite the joy he found in the children's laughter and their moments of play, the exhaustion was palpable. Cristino, with his boundless 6-year-old energy, presented a unique set of challenges. His spirited personality and stubbornness frequently tested Elian's patience, making the task of maintaining order and calm a daunting one. Elian worked hard to set and enforce boundaries, but Cristino's natural curiosity often led him to break things and create messes. When Paloma came home, the consequences of Cristino's antics were evident. She didn't shy away from scolding both her son and Elian. "Elian, this is unacceptable," Paloma would say, her frustration clear. "I trusted you to handle everything." Elian would respond with a sense of regret. "Paloma, I'm sorry. I don't know how this happened," he would explain, recounting how Cristino had gotten into the paint while he was attending to Hugo's needs. Elian's apologies were sincere, driven by a desire to rectify the situation and make amends for the unintended chaos. Paloma listened, though her frustration remained. "I understand that taking care of Cristino is challenging, but I needed you to manage things better," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion and disappointment. Despite the recognition of his efforts, the sight of the disheveled living room was disheartening. Elian acknowledged his responsibility in the situation, feeling the weight of Paloma's trust. "I promise this won't happen again. I'll be more vigilant and ensure Cristino understands the rules," he vowed, determined to restore the trust and maintain the balance they had established. Paloma, seeing the genuine remorse in Elian's eyes, softened her stance. She realized that while mistakes were made, Elian's intentions were good. "All right," she agreed. "Let's clean this up together and figure out how to teach Cristino about the importance of respecting the house." That particular day, however, was particularly taxing. The house seemed to be in constant disarray, and Elian struggled to keep up. Hugo's incessant cries added to the pressure, testing Elian's patience. As he prepared a bottle for the hungry baby, he noticed the sky darkening with the threat of an impending storm. Balancing between the kitchen and the patio, Elian faced the urgent task of rescuing the clothes from the clothesline before the rain could ruin them. It was a race against time, juggling his attention between the needs of the children and the chores that demanded his immediate action. In these moments of chaos, Elian's resolve was put to the test. His attempts to manage the household, ensure the children's well-being, and handle the unexpected challenges were constant reminders of the demanding role he had taken on. Yet, despite the trials, Elian remained committed to his responsibilities, determined to provide stability and care for the family he had come to cherish. Cristino, blissfully unaware of the growing tension, seized the opportunity to transform the living room into a makeshift soccer field. His impromptu game quickly escalated when the ball, kicked with more enthusiasm than accuracy, veered off course and struck the lamp. The impact shattered the lamp, sending shards of glass scattering across the floor. The sudden crash jolted Elian from his efforts to calm Hugo and manage the household chaos. "Cristino, are you okay?" Elian rushed over, his voice tinged with concern. As he inspected Cristino for injuries, his initial worry turned to frustration. "How many times have I told you not to play ball inside the house? Look at this mess." Before Cristino could respond, Elian remembered the milk on the stove and sprinted back to the kitchen. "The milk!" he exclaimed, dashing through the living room. His heart raced as he reached the stove just in time to turn off the heat, preventing an even bigger disaster. Taking a moment to breathe deeply, he tried to steady himself amidst the chaos. Cristino, realizing the seriousness of his actions, hung his head, guilt evident in his small frame. "I'm sorry, Eli," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. With the immediate crisis averted, Elian returned to the living room to face the mess. The room was a scene of disarray, with the lamp's remnants strewn across the floor and Hugo still crying softly. Elian's shoulders felt the weight of responsibility and the stress of the day. As an adult, he knew he had to remain calm and take control. "Let's clean this up," he said, more to himself than to Cristino, adding, "Remember not to play inside the house next time." Elian began the painstaking task of picking up the glass shards, carefully avoiding cuts and ensuring that no dangerous pieces were left behind. The broken lamp was more than just a physical mess. It symbolized the turmoil that had marked the day. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed by the roar of the rain as it pounded against the windows. The sight of the storm outside brought another urgent task to mind. Elian quickly discarded the last of the glass fragments and dashed outside, braving the torrential rain to save the clothes on the line. The wind howled and the rain soaked him to the bone, but Elian battled through, determined to salvage the laundry. With the clothes gathered in his arms, Elian stumbled back inside, drenched and exhausted but relieved. He placed the wet clothes in a pile and, feeling the enormity of the day's challenges weigh heavily on him, slumped into a chair at the kitchen table. Overwhelmed by the stress, he allowed himself a moment of vulnerability, letting the tears mix with the rainwater still dripping from his hair and clothes. It was in this moment of raw emotion that Cristino found him. The boy, sensing Elian's distress, approached with a look of deep concern. "Eli, are you okay? You look so sad. Is it my fault?" Cristino's small voice was filled with genuine worry and care. Elian looked up, startled by the interruption. The sight of Cristino's worried face, combined with the boy's sincere question, made his emotions surge even more. "I'm just a little tired, Cristino," he said, forcing a smile through his tears. Without hesitation, Cristino moved closer and wrapped his tiny arms around Elian in a hug. The simplicity of the gesture was profound, offering comfort in a moment of profound vulnerability. Elian felt the warmth and sincerity of Cristino's embrace, and it was at that moment that he realized the depth of the bond that had formed between them. Cristino's hug, though small, was a beacon of hope and compassion amid Elian's trials. It reminded him of the love and support that could be found even in the most challenging circumstances. Cristino's simple yet profound words, "Everything will be okay, Eli. I'll help you," were a balm to Elian's frazzled spirit. That unexpected moment of comfort from the young boy marked a turning point. Despite the weight of his responsibilities, Elian felt a flicker of solace, realizing he was not alone in this chaotic new reality. Cristino's strength, though coming from a child, reminded Elian of the power of kindness and the support that can emerge from the most unexpected places. As Elian hugged Cristino back, the warmth of the child's embrace offered a fleeting but much-needed respite. It was then that the calm was abruptly shattered by the sound of the front door opening. Paloma walked in, her initial relief at being home quickly replaced by irritation when she noticed the missing lamp in the living room. The broken lamp had left a glaring mark on the household's order, a silent testament to the day's trials. Elian, still at the kitchen table, was caught off guard by Paloma's sudden shift in mood. His eyes, still wet from tears, reflected the weight of his exhaustion and guilt. As Paloma's frustration filled the room, her voice cut through the air with a sharp edge, demanding an explanation for the broken lamp. What happened with the lamp in the living room? Her tone was laden with impatience, each word pressing heavily on Elian's already burdened shoulders. Overwhelmed by the guilt and the mounting pressure, Elian struggled to find his voice. He opened his mouth to speak but only managed to sob, a silent admission of his feelings of failure and inadequacy. Seeing Elian's distress, Cristino stepped forward with a surprising maturity for his age. "It was me, Mom. I was playing with the ball inside and accidentally broke the lamp," he confessed, meeting Paloma's gaze with a brave determination. "Elian tried to stop me, but I didn't listen. It's not his fault." Cristino's brave admission shifted Paloma's frustration to a reluctant understanding. Observing the bond between Elian and Cristino, the younger's defense of the older, Paloma recognized the depth of their relationship. Her sternness softened as she saw the effort Elian had made despite the day's challenges and Cristino's courage in taking the blame. "I'm sorry, Elian. I didn't mean to add to your stress," Paloma said, her voice now tinged with empathy. The interaction underscored the importance of understanding and communication within the family. Grateful for the newfound insight, Paloma suggested, "Let's have dinner together. Tomorrow we'll pick out a new lamp for the living room." That night, as the family gathered around the dinner table, they found a shared sense of connection and comfort. The meal was more than just sustenance. It was a quiet affirmation of their mutual support. For Elian, Cristino's defense was a beacon of hope, a reminder that he truly had someone to lean on. In the aftermath of the lamp incident, a new dynamic began to emerge in Paloma's household. Recognizing the weight of Elian's responsibilities, Paloma decided to offer more patience and support rather than solely focusing on expectations. This shift in approach fostered a deeper and more meaningful connection between them. Over time, Paloma's attentive support helped Elian improve his domestic skills and created a more nurturing environment where he felt safe and valued. As they grew closer, Paloma began to notice subtle patterns in Elian's behavior. His quiet moments, distant glances, and the small sighs that hinted at his emotional burden. This growing understanding marked the beginning of a more profound friendship, transcending mere coexistence and laying the foundation for a more supportive and compassionate relationship. It was a quiet afternoon when Paloma noticed Elian's growing anxiety. Finding him in the yard, staring blankly into space, she approached with genuine concern. "Elian, is everything okay?" she asked softly. Startled by the question, Elian initially tried to mask his distress with a forced smile. However, Paloma's tender insistence broke through his defenses. He hesitated before opening up, his voice trembling as he spoke. "He's my stepfather," Elian began, struggling to control his emotions. "He's been texting me for the past few days. I'm scared and don't want to see him again," he confessed. The fear of his past catching up with him and Hugo was palpable in his voice. Paloma's heart ached as she listened. Having fled her abusive past, she empathized deeply with Elian's fear. "Elian, you're not alone in this," she said firmly, taking his hands in hers. "We'll face this together, just like we've faced everything else." Elian absorbed Paloma's words, feeling a mix of relief and lingering uncertainty. "But if I respond, won't that just encourage him to keep looking for us? What if he finds us?" His eyes searched Paloma's for reassurance. Paloma chose her words with care, balancing firmness and compassion. "I understand your fear. Ignoring him entirely might not be the best solution. We need to set clear boundaries. I can help with that. Responding can give you some control over the situation." Elian's worry shifted to the issue of their address. "What about our address?" he asked, paralyzed by fear at the thought of his father discovering their location. Paloma responded firmly, "Never give out our address or any information that could endanger your safety or Hugo's. If you decide to reply, be vague about your situation and firm about your wish for distance. Make it clear that you're fine but wish to remain apart." Paloma's advice and unwavering support instilled a glimmer of hope in Elian. That night, under the calming cloak of darkness, he drafted a response, each word a heavy mix of past fears and newfound strength. "I'm fine, but I prefer to keep my private life. Please respect my wish for distance." Sending the message felt like an act of courage, an affirmation of his autonomy and safety. Over the next few days, Elian's anxiety lessened, replaced by a cautious calm as life at Paloma's house resumed its normal rhythm. Paloma watched over him with vigilant care, her resolve to protect their fragile new family strengthening with each passing day. But just as a sense of peace settled in, Elian's phone buzzed with a new message. This time, it wasn't a text but an audio message. His heart raced as he listened to the familiar, tearful voice of his mother. Her voice, choked with sobs, filled the room. "Elian, please, my son, I just need to know that you're okay. Tell me where you are, please," she pleaded, her desperation palpable. The message struck Elian like a physical blow, the pain and confusion mingling in his heart. The emotional weight of his mother's anguish and his tumultuous feelings collided, leaving him grappling with the implications of her plea. Elian's reaction was immediate and visceral. The cell phone slipped from his trembling hands, and the ground seemed to give way beneath him. His mother's voice, so laden with pain and fear, stirred emotions he thought were buried deep. For a fleeting moment, he was transported back to his childhood, feeling the old, desperate need to protect his little brother from harm. In a state of urgent panic, Elian sought out Paloma, the only person he felt could offer him the support he needed. Finding her in the kitchen, he appeared pale and shaken, his eyes red from both tears and the gnawing fear of what the message might mean. "It's my mother," he stammered, his voice breaking. "She sent a message. She's crying. She wants to know where we are." Paloma, recognizing the gravity of the situation, set aside her tasks and gave Elian her full attention. Listening to the audio, her heart tightened with empathy for both Elian and his mother. She understood that this was a moment demanding more than just words. It required thoughtful action and guidance. "Elian," Paloma said gently, her tone a calm anchor in the storm of emotions he was experiencing. "I know this is incredibly hard, but we need to approach this situation with a clear mind. Ignoring your mother's distress won't help anyone." After a thorough discussion, they decided on a cautious approach. Elian would send a response, reassuring his mother of their safety without divulging their exact location or details about their current life. It was a delicate balance between providing comfort and maintaining their hard-won security. With Paloma offering silent support, Elian recorded the message for his mother. Each word was chosen with care, reflecting both his anguish and resolve. When he finished, he felt a slight easing of the burden he carried. His message was heartfelt yet firm. "Mom, I received your message. First, I want you to know that I'm fine. Hugo is also fine. We are safe. I know you must be very worried, and I'm so sorry for the pain we've caused by disappearing like that, but it was necessary for our safety. It was a tough decision, and it wasn't made lightly. I can't tell you where we are. It's not safe yet, and I need to ensure that Hugo and I can live without fear. I hope one day we can meet and explain everything. But for now, I need you to respect our need for distance. I think of you always, and despite everything, I miss you. Please take care of yourself. I will try to stay in touch, even if it's just to let you know we're okay. I love you, Mom." Elian stared at the phone with a mixture of hope and trepidation, praying for a response that might ease the turmoil in his heart. When the phone buzzed with a new message, his heart raced. He listened, expecting words of understanding or comfort. Instead, he heard his father's menacing voice, each word dripping with threat. "If you don't tell me where you are, you have no idea what I'm capable of doing to your mother." The harshness of the voice, filled with old threats now made real, froze Elian's blood. Panic gripped him, and tears welled up as he struggled to find a way to protect his mother and Hugo, who was so innocent yet already forced to live in hiding. The helplessness was overwhelming, a lump in his throat choking off any words. Paloma found him in this state of despair, the phone still clutched in his trembling hand. Hearing the threatening message, her expression hardened into a mix of anger and resolve. "Elian, you're not alone in this," she said, her voice firm and reassuring. "We'll find a solution together. We're not going to let him control our lives through fear." Despite Paloma's attempts to calm Elian, the panic consumed him. In a moment of overwhelming concern for his mother's safety, he made a rash decision. Without considering the long-term consequences, Elian recorded a new audio message, revealing their address. His voice was shaky and filled with fear as he spoke, driven by an urgent need to protect his mother at all costs. The message was sent before he could fully grasp the gravity of his actions. As soon as the message was dispatched, a wave of regret washed over Paloma. She realized the severity of what Elian had just done. Her heart raced with worry as she saw the look of desperation on his face. "Elian, that was a terrible mistake," she said, her voice thick with concern. The tension in the room was palpable as they both understood the dangerous implications of their actions. They had compromised not only their safety but also that of Hugo and Paloma herself. Determined to act swiftly, Paloma's voice took on a tone of urgency. "We need to prepare to leave. I'll reach out to some trusted contacts and find a safe place for us to stay temporarily," she said, her resolve clear despite the fear gnawing at her. The urgency of their situation had turned into immediate action. Elian, still reeling from his panic and guilt, knew Paloma was right. Although the mistake couldn't be undone, there was still a chance to minimize the fallout. Together, they began to make frantic preparations. They gathered essential items, clothes, important documents, and anything else they might need for their escape. The plan was straightforward. Find temporary shelter in a hotel far enough away to ensure their safety, while Paloma contacted someone reliable who could provide them with a safe place. Elian, still shaken by the threat and his hasty response, moved methodically, following Paloma's directions. Hugo, sensing the heightened anxiety, began to whimper, picking up on the tension in the air. Elian held him close, murmuring soothing words as he packed. In the kitchen, Paloma prepared quick snacks, sandwiches, and other essentials they could eat on the go. As she packed them into a thermal bag, her gaze drifted to the window, a reflexive habit she had developed to find a moment of calm. Her heart stopped when she saw Mauricio, her ex-husband, approaching the house with determined steps. The shock of seeing him so unexpectedly made Paloma's blood run cold. For a moment, she stood frozen, unable to fully process the horrifying reality of the threat now looming over them. Quickly regaining her composure, Paloma dashed back to the living room where Elian and the children were finishing their packing. "Mauricio, my ex-husband, is here," she whispered urgently, her voice shaking. "We need to leave immediately, through the back door." The fear in her eyes underscored the critical nature of their situation. There was no room for hesitation. The revelation struck Elian like a thunderbolt. "My father was also Mauricio," he said, the confusion evident in his voice. The room fell into a heavy silence as both Elian and Paloma grappled with the chilling coincidence. Paloma halted in her tracks, her eyes widening with shock and sudden understanding. The weight of the revelation hung heavy in the air, adding a new layer of danger to their already precarious situation. Paloma's voice trembled as she asked, "The Mauricio you're talking about is the same Mauricio, my ex-husband?" The gravity of the question weighed heavily on her, not from doubt but from the terrifying implications of the revelation. Elian, grappling with the horrific realization, felt as though the ground had given way beneath him. The man who had been a source of fear and anguish in his life was now revealed to be the same one who had caused so much pain to Paloma and her child. "I swear to God, I had no idea about this," he stammered, the bitter irony of the situation barely escaping his trembling lips. For a moment, the room was enveloped in stunned silence, each person absorbing the impact of the revelation. Yet, the urgency of their predicament demanded immediate action, pushing the shocking discovery into the background. "We have to leave now," Paloma urged, her voice steely with resolve. The intertwining of their painful histories was a complexity to be addressed later. The immediate priority was the safety of everyone involved. Elian, despite his shock, nodded in agreement. Holding Hugo tightly, he followed Paloma and Cristino toward the back exit. The tension was palpable as they moved quickly through the darkened backyard, striving to remain unseen. The night was pierced by Mauricio's furious shouts, his voice growing increasingly menacing as he called out for Elian. "Elian! Elian! Where are you? I know you're here." The echoes of Mauricio's anger heightened their fear and urgency. Just as they were nearing the relative safety of the shadows beyond the patio, Hugo began to cry, his wails cutting through the darkness. The sound of the baby's cries immediately drew Mauricio's attention, sending him directly towards their location. Mauricio's swift movement around the house, tracking the noise, led him to the sight of Paloma, Elian, and the children. The mutual shock of their encounter halted everyone in their tracks. Paloma and Elian froze, their escape plan shattered by the unexpected confrontation. Mauricio, caught off guard by the sight of his ex-wife and Elian with the children, was momentarily disoriented. His anger faded into confusion, his gaze darting between the familiar faces now entangled in this nightmare. "What?" Paloma exclaimed, disbelief coloring her voice. Mauricio's initial rage softened, replaced by a bewildered confusion. "Paloma," he said, his voice trembling with a mix of surprise and fear. Paloma gripped Cristino's hand tightly, an instinctive move to protect her son from any potential threat. "Please, Mauricio, don't do anything you might regret," she pleaded, her voice steady but pleading. Mauricio, equally stunned, shifted his focus between Paloma and Elian. "Paloma, what are you doing here? And with Elian?" His anger was overshadowed by the confusion of their unexpected meeting. The surreal nature of the encounter left each person grappling with the shock and implications of their forced confrontation. Their intertwined fates now a tangled mess of fear and uncertainty. Paloma stood resolutely between Mauricio and the children, her grip on Cristino's hand tight as she tried to shield him from the growing storm. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "We're trying to protect the children. Mauricio, please, for their sake, calm down and we can talk about this." Mauricio's brief pause of hesitation quickly turned into a storm of renewed rage. "You abandoned me, Paloma. You took my son and disappeared." His voice cracked with fury as he took a menacing step closer, his presence more intimidating than ever. Despite her internal turmoil, Paloma remained steadfast. "Mauricio, I had no choice. I needed to protect Cristino and myself," she said, desperation evident in her tone. "Please think of the children. We don't want anything bad to happen to them." As the argument grew heated, Elian, struggling to stay calm amidst the chaos, discreetly pulled out his cell phone. With trembling hands, he dialed the police, keeping the phone hidden in his grip. He left the call open, allowing the officers to overhear the threatening exchange and hoping that their intervention would arrive in time. Unaware of Elian's silent plea for help, Mauricio's rage continued to escalate. "You ruined everything, Paloma. How could you do this to me? And now you're hiding Elian from me too." His anger seemed boundless, his voice a crescendo of accusation and threat. Paloma, her voice a desperate plea, tried to reason with him. "I'm just trying to do the best for the children, Mauricio. Please, let's resolve this peacefully." Her attempts at negotiation seemed futile against Mauricio's growing fury. Elian, the phone still clutched in his hand, remained motionless, hoping that the police would arrive before the situation could spiral further. The urgency of their predicament was evident, each second bringing them closer to a possible catastrophe. Mauricio's anger reached a fever pitch, his voice becoming a thunderous roar. "You abandoned me, Paloma. You took my son and disappeared. You're going to pay for this. You're going to pay dearly for abandoning me." His rage was palpable, veins bulging as his anger distorted his sense of reason. Paloma's face was streaked with tears of fear as she cried out, "Mauricio, please think of the children. We can't resolve this like this, not in front of them." Her plea was a desperate cry for mercy, an attempt to shield the children from the trauma of this violent confrontation. The escalating commotion drew the attention of the neighbors, who began to emerge, their concerned faces peering out from their doorways. The pressure on the situation intensified as more eyes witnessed the scene unfolding. Just as the situation seemed on the brink of disaster, the sound of sirens cut through the night, a welcome relief amidst the chaos. The arrival of the police, and their authoritative steps approaching the scene, brought a mixture of hope and anxiety. Paloma, Elian, and the children stood poised between fear and relief, their fate hanging in the balance as the police intervened to restore order and ensure their safety. The police arrived to find Mauricio in a frenzy, his rage palpable and unchecked. Paloma, tears streaming down her face, clutched her terrified children and Elian, who stood close by, his expression a mix of fear and relief. Without hesitation, the officers moved swiftly to subdue Mauricio, who resisted with all his remaining strength, his anger giving way to frantic desperation. The confrontation, fraught with tension, ended abruptly as Mauricio was handcuffed and led away to a patrol car, his shouts and threats dwindling into the distance. As Mauricio was taken away, the house was left in a heavy silence, echoing the emotional turbulence of the night. Paloma, overcome by the night's events, embraced her children and Elian, allowing herself to cry openly. Her tears were a release of the deep-seated fear and a profound sense of relief. The sight of the police's timely intervention brought a wave of gratitude over Elian, who felt a surge of thankfulness for their swift arrival. Under the dark sky, illuminated by the flashing lights of the police vehicles, a new chapter began for the two families now intricately linked by fate and shared pain. Mauricio's arrest marked the end of a prolonged period of fear and uncertainty. The evidence collected, including the threatening messages and the audio that Elian had sent, played a crucial role in securing justice. Mauricio's departure brought not just a sense of relief but also the hope for a new beginning. For the first time in a long while, they could breathe deeply, their terror finally giving way to the promise of peace and renewal. Paloma, her eyes still red from tears, managed a hesitant smile as she held her children and Elian close, overwhelmed with gratitude for the safety they now had. Although Mauricio's reign of terror had ended, Elian faced a new challenge, returning to his mother's side to support her through the aftermath and help rebuild their lives. Elian's decision to stay with Paloma was marked by a poignant blend of gratitude and melancholy. It symbolized the end of a painful chapter and the beginning of a hopeful new one. Though they parted ways with bittersweet emotions, their bond remained strong. They stayed in close contact, their relationship evolving into a new, supportive family dynamic. Paloma, now free from fear, dedicated herself to creating a secure and loving environment for Cristino, determined to provide him with the stability and care he deserved. As the shadow of fear receded, it made way for light and joy. Paloma faced the challenges ahead with renewed confidence, fueled by her love and determination. The story of Paloma, Elian, Cristino, and Hugo stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of love. Their journey through adversity forged unbreakable bonds, leaving them stronger and more united as they moved forward into a future filled with hope. As we come to the end of this intense and emotional journey, we hope you found some valuable insights and lessons in the story of Paloma, Elian, Cristino, and Hugo. From facing overwhelming fear to finding the strength to overcome adversity, their experience underscores the power of resilience, love, and the importance of support in our lives. We'd love to hear from you about what you've learned from this story. What's one lesson or insight that you plan to bring into your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful and engaging, please leave your comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing valuable stories and advice to you. Thank you for watching.